COVID-19 cases in Nigeria crosses the 50,000 mark after NCDC reports 593 new infections. West African Examinations Council fumes as WASC examination questions leaked before it began. In international news, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny in coma after suspected poisoning. And in sport, FIFA Ethics Committee drops Infantino case.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Nigeria has crossed the grim milestone of 50,000 coronavirus cases after 593 new cases were reported on Wednesday. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control says there were also 4 new deaths. The fresh cases were spread across 16 states and the Federal Capital Territory, moving the needle to 50,488 cases. NCDC says Plateau State led the pack with 186 new cases, followed by Lagos at 172. The Federal Capital Territory was a distant third with 62 cases. Fatalities have now increased to 985. Before the West African Senior School Certificate examination began, the examination questions were already leaked to many students. The West African Examinations Council, WAEC, claims some of the supervisors were responsible for the leak. WAEC's head of national office, Patrick Arihan, disclosed this on Wednesday during a monitoring exercise to some schools in Yaba, Lagos State. He said the supervisors that were responsible for the leak have been arrested. He said it was shameful that some supervisors would collect examination question papers from WAEC and diverge the questions to students. He said the council's detection system led to catching leakers in Nasarawa, Bauchi, and Port Harcourt. This year's examinations kicked off on Monday and will end in early September. It has been a year since the Nigerian government closed its land borders with neighboring African countries to tackle arms proliferation, smuggling, and other illicit transborder activities. The federal government says the closed border has drastically reduced inflow of arms and ammunition, and that it has also reduced incidents of cattle rustling, kidnapping, armed banditry, and other activities that are responsible for insecurity in the northwest. Smuggling of petroleum products is also said to have been curtailed because filling stations along the northwest border have been closed. The Nigeria Customs Service says the border closure has also increased its daily revenue to an average of nearly 6 billion naira because cargoes that used to go to Benin Republic and smuggled into Nigeria now go to Apapa or Tinkan Island ports where proper custom duties are paid. President of National Council of Managing Directors of Licensed Custom Agents, Lucky Amirewo, says the Nigerian economy would feel the impact of this exercise in a positive way, while countries who used to profit as smuggling routes will now have to re-strategize on new ways for their economies to survive. The Nigerian economy has been pummeled by the combination of a crash in oil prices and the brutal COVID-19 pandemic. Correspondent Deji Badmos reports the World Bank says the situation spells an impending severe economic recession for Nigeria, the worst since the 1980s.
Nigeria's economy was already experiencing a slowdown from falling oil prices when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. First quarter GDP before the outbreak of COVID-19 was 1.9%. Second quarter GDP, which is expected in the coming days, is projected to be worse, with the government and analysts warning that a recession is inevitable this year.
Not only do we have an economic shock, but we also have a health pandemic. And this combination of all these two reactions have caused all the global economies to force into recession. Nigeria, we're predicting a decline in the economy of between 5 to 10%, depending on how the Nigerian government manages the situation.
Another development that has affected us is the massive cuts that OPEC has now imposed on OPEC members and OPEC allies to our production volume. So our crude oil production level provided by OPEC is now 1.4 million barrels per day.
With the country's revenue badly hit, the government has been forced to resort to massive borrowing to fund its readjusted budget and alleviate the impact of COVID-19 on the country, driving up its debt levels, which currently stands at $79.3 billion.
The worrying part of these numbers is the fact that in the first quarter, 95% of the revenues went towards debt service. So there's some severe fiscal challenges that we're currently facing. And at the moment, the country is negotiating banks loans with the World Bank, the IMF, and other multinational agencies, including the African Development Bank.
We have a Fiscal Responsibility Act, which by law pegs the deficit, budget deficit, to 3% of GDP. So that has guided all the governments from 2007 till today, and they haven't violated it. So that now in this round, we just hit that 3%.
Reduced foreign earnings from oil, poor diaspora remittances, and a reversal in the flow of foreign direct and portfolio investments have all combined to pile severe pressure on Nigeria's currency. Despite 2 rounds of devaluation, analysts believe another round of devaluation cannot be avoided.
We still have shortfalls in central bank's ability to meet the demands in the market. We still have unmet letters of credit and other foreign currency obligations in the financial system. And then remember, the economy has not opened up fully. When the economy opens up fully and people begin to make demands on FX, you're going to see a lot more pressure.
Despite the challenging outlook and looming recession, the economy is expected to begin to make a gradual recovery from 2021. But analysts say how things proceed from there will depend on the government and its economic managers.
And this involves the coordination of not only monetary policy with fiscal policy, but you also need to synchronize investment and trade policies. So those are the 4 pillars for us to be able to see some sort of economic growth and economic sustainability.
The government is doing all it can to raise revenue through other measures like tax. It's hiked VAT from 5% to 7.5%, but even that too has led to a spike in prices of consumables. The government has asked everyone to brace up for the bumpy ride, which has now effectively begun.
Coming up, African news, Mali mutiny described by world bodies and nations. And later, international news, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny in coma after suspected poisoning.
You are watching ANN.
See you tomorrow, Papa. I am happy and I know I'm free.
Now na time for meeting. Any landlord when no show pay fine.
Make I go call her.
House number 1. President.
Papa, they don't stab me too.
House number 5.
And you're angry that you're not here.
Just put me on the window there so that I can see them and I can hear them. He's not around, so his house is sanctioned. Present! I carry data for head, I carry him for back. Correct data when no dey peme. Say I know they know me, say I know they see your landlord. Talk to me face to face.
Explore without limits. Turn it up on MTN, the reliable data network.
Driver, fire ahead.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The United States has joined the list of countries that strongly condemned Tuesday's mutiny in Mali. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called on all political and military actors on Wednesday to work towards a restoration of constitutional government in the country. Pompeo issued a statement asking all stakeholders in Mali to engage in peaceful dialogue to respect Malians' rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, and to reject violence. The United Nations Security Council, as well as the African Union, has also denounced the Mali military takeover. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, has raised concern the crisis in Mali could derail efforts to combat Islamic insurgency in the region. Norwegian embassy in Mali had raised alarm on Tuesday, calling on its citizens to stay indoors. Meanwhile, African Union Chairman Cyril Ramaphosa has demanded the release of Mali's President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, whom the military arrested at gunpoint on Tuesday. Malian Prime Minister Boubou Cissé and other government executives were also arrested. New information has emerged that the president's son, Speaker of the National Assembly, and Foreign and Finance Ministers were among other detained officials. Keïta has resigned on Tuesday night in a brief address on state television. Tunisia's tourism minister, Mohamed Ali Toumi, says the country has adopted a strategy of coexistence with COVID-19. He said on Tuesday the strategy has proved its worth and enabled reaching 0 cases of infection. But what does that all mean? Correspondent Adnin Chawachi explains.
Authorities in the North African nation believe that the strategy of coexistence with the virus will prevent a disastrous 2020 tourist season. According to the latest monetary and financial indicators published by the Central Bank of Tunisia and the Ministry of Tourism and Handicrafts, tourist revenues fell by 56% at the end of July 2020 to around $400 million from $900 million during the same period of 2019.
Tunisia can no longer afford to close its air and maritime borders because it will paralyze the economic activity again, and especially tourism. We must cope with this new situation and preserve jobs. However, we must not tolerate any disrespects of coexistence strategy. It will not be at the expense of public health.
The Ministry of Health has put in place a strict and updated health protocol at all hotels in the main tourist destinations. In effect, this means that hotels cannot remain closed indefinitely.
The Tourism Office and the Ministry have initiated the health protocol, which is now taking into consideration the coexistence strategy while respecting the standards of the International Tourism Organization. We are confident that this strategy will work.
The government has warned against the increase in the number of local infections. The National Observatory of New and Emerging Diseases declared that many Tunisians have resumed a normal life without respecting the prevention measures. Thousands of European travelers have visited the tourist resorts of Jerba, Mehdiya, Sousse and Hammamet since Tunisia reopened its air and maritime borders on June 27th. In addition, over 10,000 tourists are expected to spend their holidays in the North African country in the next 4 weeks. A special unit from the Ministry of Health will be in charge of imposing the new prevention measures at ports and airports. However, tourism experts assert that respecting social distancing at hotels and using face masks at the beaches and the swimming pools is an unrealistic measure.
South Africans are enduring one of the strictest lockdowns and a ban on alcohol to lower hospital admissions from injuries from drink-related violence and accidents. It also is supposed to ease the burden on health workers who face the worst coronavirus outbreak in Africa. Our correspondent Travis Andrews now reports the move has left bartenders jobless.
Long Street in Cape Town is arguably the heart of the city's entertainment scene, a strip that attracts locals and international tourists alike. It's since been reduced to a pale shadow of its former self. Alcohol is off limits, bars and restaurants have shut their doors, and for 27-year-old barman Lubabalo Makunyana, this means no job.
The ban of alcohol has affected me a lot because I've got a family that I need to feed. Then now, since the ban of alcohol is being introduced in South Africa, I don't have a job. I'm not working anymore, and at work we can't do anything because that's when we benefit. When the alcohol is open, that's when things are happening.
Lubavalo usually runs the bar counter at Nom Nom on Long Street, a local Italian-style eatery and bar famous for its pizzas and cold beers. These days, it can only sell food and customers are far and few between, leaving this popular barman of 7 years desperately in search of casual labor.
I do go and look for work. I do apply online. I send my CVs to various places, but they are looking for experience in their same industry. Because like in my industry, it's not easy now to get a job, to get a different job. So now I'm applying to anything.
But his story is one that is replicated throughout the industry. While some wait at home, others are already beginning to move on. There are hundreds of barmen affected by the ban on alcohol sales in the street alone. And many are hoping the impending decision on the extension of the national state of disaster may bring them some reprieve. The liquor industry has been actively engaging with the government on the economic impact the ban has had.
The industry can open safely. We can sell alcohol only like for 5 hours or 6 hours a day, each and every day, just to benefit, just to get customers inside the shop, just to eat and drink. Because if we don't sell alcohol, we don't make money at all. The shop can't make money, and then we can't get payments.
For now, though, the fridges are empty and the bars will remain customerless. And for many of the city's bartenders, it's a case of wait and see.
When we return, international news. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny in coma after suspected poisoning. And later, sport. FIFA Ethics Committee drops Infantino case.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. 44-year-old Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is still in coma in a hospital in Siberia after suspected poisoning. Navalny is widely known for his criticisms of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The opposition leader fell ill on a flight from Tomsk, a city in Siberia. Spokesperson Kira Yomsh says the plane made an emergency landing in the city of Tomsk and Navalny was rushed to a hospital where he's currently on a ventilator in intensive care. Yomsh says Navalny's relatives think a substance was mixed in his tea. She added that doctors have said a toxic agent would have been absorbed faster through the hot liquid. Navalny is Russia's most prominent opposition leader who challenges President Vladimir Putin's administration through anti-corruption investigations and building a grassroots protest movement. His investigations, normally published as videos, have exposed alleged corruption among top Russian officials, including some members of Putin's inner circle, attracting millions of views. United States Senator Kamala Harris has accepted the Democratic vice presidential nomination. In her acceptance speech, Harris implores Americans to elect Joe Biden in November. She accused President Donald Trump of failed leadership that has cost them American lives, especially during this pandemic. Harris further said Trump's divisive leadership has, quote, brought the country to an inflection point, end quote. Harris makes history as the first black woman and Asian American to be nominated on a major U.S. presidential ticket. Harris says the American people must elect a president who will bring all races in the country together. Former U.S. President Barack Obama, speaking just before Harris, said Trump has only succeeded in helping himself and his friends. Harris's nomination rounded up the third day of the party's convention that has featured women headliners, moderators and speakers, showcasing the growing power of women in politics and especially in the Democratic Party. As London emerges from lockdown, galleries and museums are opening their doors again. Like all other sectors of the creative industries, cultural institutions have also been hit hard by the pandemic. London Science Museum is now open for visitors, exhibitions and more. Nawaj Jabakil reports.
In the middle of a worldwide pandemic, interest in science is near an all-time high. Against that backdrop, London's world-famous Science Museum has swung open its doors for the first time since March.
In order to keep our visitors safe, we're really managing numbers, managing the capacity, ensuring that social distancing is possible throughout. We've got an enhanced cleaning regime. We're asking our visitors to come with a mask, and indeed our team are also wearing masks.
This is the COVID era, and documenting that matters. The museum is embarking on its largest ever collecting project on behalf of the entire British nation.
Our curators, with great sensitivity, are identifying stories and identifying objects to collect for the long term, to add to our permanent collection of 7.3 million objects, reflecting the economic, industrial, scientific and personal responses to the pandemic.
The recent closure of the museum means it's lost millions of dollars in potential revenue. With visitors returning, it's hoping to recoup some of that, even though entrance remains free, and early signs look promising.
It's been really interesting. It's been really nice to come out with a family after a long time of just not being able to engage, and they've really had a great time today.
Well, it's just educational, isn't it? It's great for tourism. I know you walk around and you see lots of nationalities around. So obviously that's important.
We are very privileged of living in London, and it's really nice to be able to have access to these places.
This area of central London has been the cultural heart of the city since it first opened 175 years ago. But it's rarely seen challenges like COVID-19. Almost half of the Science Museum's visitors come from outside the UK. And with the pandemic and quarantine laws still hurting international travel, that could make any recovery here even more difficult.
3.3 million people visited the museum last year, but new safety measures mean capacity will be limited to a quarter of its previous maximum. For now, the focus here is on safety and ensuring these marvellous treasures can be enjoyed for years to come.
The Cuban government has announced an integrated series of measures intended to stimulate development and growth, undertake gradual economic reform, raise standards of living, and a process to unify the country's dual currency system. Correspondent Luis Chirinon has the details.
This is a popular pastry and coffee shop in downtown Havana. Jennifer Ortega is the manager, and she offers customers a variety of products from the city's first wholesale market.
We have a contract with Mercabal Market, which has added new products to their offer, where we purchase chocolate-covered paste, flour, and eggs, and other products. And if they offered more items, it would meet 100% our needs, because it is a wholesale market.
Mercabal is an initiative included in the new government's reforms aimed at providing private businesses with new working opportunities.
We are working with the local food industry to keep diversifying our offer with new products for private businesses. Our challenge is to keep provisioning our market, meeting our clients' demand, so they offer the people a better catering service.
The opening of wholesale markets like this one has been in demand by private business owners.
This is positive for all private workers because we didn't have a wholesale market before, so we previously had to purchase our products at retail markets where the people do their shopping.
Market clients can either request delivery services or they can also use a drive-through like this customer, loading his American Chrysler car with products. Authorities say markets like this one will soon open in Havana and in other cities across the island. Government officials also announced the formation of small and mid-sized private businesses, the expansion of self-employment models, and plans to encourage local development, a far-reaching program according to local economic analysts.
I think that the most important aspect of this government strategy is that for the first time, and this is news, it points at a series of interrelated and simultaneous changes to take place in diverse areas of Cuban economy.
According to Terrero, these changes pose a challenge within the Cuban economy, which is complex and impacted by COVID-19. The new measures aimed at strengthening Cuban economy also open the doors to the world market for private businesses with foreign trade potential through state-owned import and export companies.
Up next, sports. FIFA Ethics Committee drops Infantino case. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. FIFA's Ethics Committee has decided to close its case against President Gianni Infantino, who is facing a criminal probe in Switzerland over suspected collusion with the country's top prosecutor, Michael Lober, who resigned last month over his handling of a corruption investigation targeting FIFA. Infantino has been in charge of FIFA for 2 years now, but the independent judicial body determined there was insufficient evidence to warrant going further with the case. It looks like the era of no fans is set to continue as UEFA have decided that Nations League matches in September will take place behind closed doors, despite some to take place between the Champions League and Europa League winners. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.